This is another episode of Standup Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another special episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. And this week I'm doing something totally different. We've talked a lot about stand-up comedy as an industry, as an art form. We've shared stand-up comedy. We've explored talking to agents, managers, and comics galore. But on this week's show, it's special to me because it's my anniversary week with my bride, Jill, and joining us, the very funny, you've heard him many times on the podcast, Bob Worley, and his bride, Bernice. Ladies and gentlemen, let me do it officially. First, let's say Bob and Bernice Worley are in the house.
All right.
Say hi, Bernice.
Hi, Bernice. Hi, Scott.
And and my lovely bride, Jill.
She's the best.
Say hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hey, this is something I wanted to throw together because we've talked about comics and comedy, and I've had the staff on the show talking about what it's like to work at a comedy club. But these two ladies have a world of different experience. One, my bride was there in the beginning, used to work for me, and ended up she worked her way up in the club. She was a hostess, and then she worked the kitchen. She was ended up being one of my best bartenders, and eventually ended up running one of my restaurants. Very, very talented and gifted, but she ended up marrying the boss, so she became an owner of a comedy club after many years. That had to be kind of a challenge, or was it a fun ride?
Oh, it was challenging.
Is it true that you wanted to buy him out at some point? Because you just saw this guy does not know what he's doing.
But going from, hostess and bartender to being an owner had to be a unique feeling, even in just interacting with the other staff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It was going from being a friend to a boss, and it's not always comfortable. In fact, it was never comfortable.
But you did it so well.
Oh, I don't think so.
And then the other aspect of it is, of course, as the boss and the owner of the business originally, and for over a decade before we got married, I had been your boss, and then all of a sudden we're married.
I became your boss.
Jill, I believe you were always his boss.
But that was an interesting transition for me, but it wasn't always easy for you.
No, never. It was, it wasn't. It wasn't easy at all. I'm not going to lie.
This interview might end in divorce.
Well, and in contrast to that, I invited Bob and Bernice to join me in the podcast because Bernice, Bob, everybody knows Bob Worley's been in stand-up comedy for years. He did a little TV. He's a regular on the podcast. You've heard a lot of his great material. But Bernice, you and Bob met at a very early age, right?
Oh, yeah. I was still in high school.
Oh, still in high school?
I never touched her.
I thought it was college. You guys met in high school?
Yeah.
Well, I was out of high school and she was.
Ooh.
I was in the drama club and we did not have enough male actors, so the director called on Bob to come back and help him out.
Because some kid dropped out of a couple plays, so he was in a bind.
So we met doing theater together.
What was the play?
Bald Soprano?
Yeah, the Bald Soprano. We did some children's theater the summer before. Yeah.
So you were there though and Bob, when did you transition to comedy? Did Bernice experience that, month by month, or were you already playing around with it?
No, I was doing theater with my friend Hardin Brothers, the teacher guy, and we started a little theater group, and then we started doing that, and then we started doing these skit group.
It was like a repertory theater troupe. We did improv skits. We did dinner theater.
Yeah.
It was fun.
And then I went out with a couple of guys from that group and started doing the clubs.
So you were there when he was doing some acting, but when he decided to become a stand-up comic, were you like, yeah, go for it, and very supportive, or were you were not married at that point?
Oh, no, we were married.
Oh, you got married young.
Yes. I was 20. Bob was 24. We spent the tail end of our honeymoon looking for an apartment in L.A. I have been a legal secretary. We've been married for
42 years?
It'll be 42 in June.
In a couple of weeks.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yay.
42 years married.
June 21st.
Okay.
Feel free to get us a
Oh,
gift.
that's my niece's birthday.
Oh,
Well, we knew that. That's why we got married.
but
Summer solstice.
but
That's right.
that's interesting because, well, I was going to mention it later, but Bernice is a very, very talented and successful legal secretary, and she's held down the fort financially and medical care wise, much like my bride Jill. After we got out of the comedy business, she went into law enforcement and works for the National Park Service, which again provides good medical and a decent income. So basically, Bob and I have been riding your coattails,
Like
ladies,
leeches.
for the last couple decades. But let's go back to the beginning, though. So in that transition, when Bob started becoming a comic and going out and hitting the road, that had to be a little difficult.
Sure. I mean, we're talking young people and early in their marriage, and you have ideas of what that marriage is supposed to be like, and when they turn out to be different. Yeah, there were some tough years there, I would say, but
For her, I never wavered once.
we were committed to growing up together, and we did.
And maybe you were more mature than some 20-year-olds, but that to me would be a really aware moment to say, okay, I've married this guy. He's going into, it's a fun industry, but it's a challenging industry on relationships, because in Bob's touring experience, he's away, 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks at a time.
Well, even in the beginning, because you go out almost every night to perform somewhere just to try to get your legs. So
Yeah.
you're gone. Oh, she comes home from work and I'm, see you later.
And that might have made the early years of marriage easier, but I would imagine it would make it actually difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like such a long time ago. Well, it was, but I mean, looking back, yeah, probably. I mean, I think we're lucky that we were just committed to staying together.
And naive. That always helps because you don't know any better.
Yeah, you're young. I guess, you're kind of going, as you mentioned, Bernice, you're kind of, you plan to spend your life together. So whatever came up, you kind of went with the flow. You found a way to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't know what the word is when you coat it with icing or frosting.
Sugarcoat it.
Sugarcoat it. Thank you, Jill.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you. But I spent some years in therapy and talking about not being happy and being mildly depressed. And I think it's because I had expectations about, our marriage was nothing like my parents. And thank God now. But I had to have someone from a different perspective say, well, what do you love about the guy? And it always came back to, what I love about him is worth anything. Putting up with being alone or putting up with financial problems. I mean,
I'm well worth it, ladies.
Well, I was joking about this. We had brunch together earlier, and I was saying that from a male's point of view, when we hear about women and how they choose their mate, that, it's not always the large penis or the great looks or maybe even the muscles, but a good personality and a good sense of humor.
Wait, I got to stop you. Who goes out and looks at somebody and goes, God, I bet you that person has a large penis. Excuse me, miss.
That's
you have
how
a large penis?
I've heard that's how women think. I don't
No.
know.
That's how you
I
think
want to
they
know where you heard this.
Because we know Jill didn't think that. Boy, Scott, he must be hungry.
My point was that Bob having a good personality, a good sense of
And
humor.
a very large penis. No, I'm built like a Ken doll. Completely smooth. Anyways, it was a welding accident. We don't want to get into it.
So Bernice, his personality and his sense of humor had to help the relationship and the marriage.
well, obviously, but yes. But the initial attraction, we were auditioning for children's theater, and he was doing a monkey impression. And I just thought he was the most adorable thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
As a pet. She thought that would make a really nice pet.
It was, I would say the initial attraction was physical, yes.
Oh, physical, not his sense of humor. See, I was kind of right. Well, Jill,
No, we're not going.
we're not going there. How you found me attractive? Okay. Well, maybe that would have been wrong because I was your...
Wow, you live in this house? Hey, well, all right.
I did have a nice
And there's a
house.
pool.
Not
I'm
when I
in.
met you. You didn't. You were
That's
living
true.
in an apartment.
Oh,
true.
okay,
That's
okay.
true.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let's. I know Jill's okay with this. I was married previously, And in that marriage, which lasted, and it's been mentioned a couple times, 18 months, even though I had 18 years of payments, the thing that was difficult there was she met me when I already had the comedy club, my first wife, Patty, and she would literally stand in the doorway with our son and scream at me and saying, why aren't you getting up and mowing the lawn? And, why don't we have the white picket fence? She wanted like that 50s black and white TV show kind of marriage. And I go, I work nights. I get home at 2 a.m. I go to bed at 4 a.m. I get up at noon. Just live with it. That's
crack-a-noon.
Yeah. And that's what she married. So I assumed she was okay with it. And yet a few months into the marriage, she was like, why aren't you working 9 to 5 and home with me every night?
But that's everybody kind of.
Yeah,
that.
couples go in with expectations, and a lot of people unrealistically expect their partner to change or.
Yeah, she thought, even though she married a comedy club owner, that I was going to become, the Mr. CPA that was home at 5
Mr.
o'clock
Cleaver.
every night. Mr. Cleaver, yeah, thank you. Now,
Did you have
Again,
a yard?
that's why I'm here.
I actually had, I adopted her daughter who was into animals. I actually was trying to make it I bought a ranch. We had
wow.
horses and
Wow.
geese and cows and the whole bit because I was trying to make up for not being at home. I had
Yeah, but then
money
you gotta,
at the time.
You got to take care of all that stuff if you buy all that stuff.
Well, no, I let them do
Oh, okay. Understandable.
But Jill, when we started dating, we were already in the comedy club business. And so when we got married, of course, she was all part of it.
Well, she's seen everything. I mean,
Yeah.
you work all
Yeah,
the way up.
And it wasn't-
Trust me, I saw everything.
I know, and I apologize for that night.
But, and it wasn't until we sold the club and I said, okay, I've lived my dream. What do you want to do? And we ended up opening
Big
a
mistake.
travel agency. But at the time, it was your dream.
I remember that week.
Yeah.
It
God,
was
I wish
horrible.
it was a week.
A grand opening, then 9/11.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't you open like September 10th or something like
No,
that?
it was the
Yeah.
week before.
The week before, but still.
And we lost so much money. And then I'm persistent and demanding, so I kept it open for like
Yeah,
2
I
years.
woke up September 12th, 2001 and said, I think we need to close. I don't see this going anywhere after yesterday. And him going, no, we have to persevere. You can't
There's going to be an
quit."
uptick from here.
And instead, they canceled all commissions.
Yes.
The travel
Everything.
business just ended.
There wasn't
Hotels.
planes in the air for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
We just got creamed. But you live and learn.
I got a lot of nice swag.
But have you learned, Scott?
No, he hasn't.
Okay, I've opened a few businesses since then, but most of them have been okay. But getting back to comedy, when Jill and I met, started dating, and ended up married, she kind of had an idea of what she was getting in for. She'd been out with me to events. She'd been living in the nightclub industry. In fact, in the beginning of our marriage and towards the end of the comedy club years, she would work days at the club and I worked nights. So we didn't have the same shift. We would pass, like you said, Bob, only we would pass at the club. She'd come in, hi, honey, and then she'd go home and I'd stay and work all night.
Yep.
So there was still that transition and adjustment period. But in the case of a comic like Bob Worley, you would go out for weeks at a time. And Bernice was holding down the fort, and then she got a great job as a legal secretary, so she was helping
She
financially.
already had that job when we got married.
That's why we moved to LA.
Yeah, that's why we moved.
Oh,
She
okay.
got the job in LA.
Great.
Oh, where are you guys from? I thought you were always from in LA.
No, we grew up in Upland, which is about 30 miles east of LA.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then like she said, on our honeymoon, hey, let's get this apartment. It doesn't have a yard. I won't have to cut it. So that's what you do.
I didn't think of that. See, I would have avoided that whole
Always
thing.
Smart. I'm always thinking, Scott.
Well, my point of bringing that up was that soon children came. You have 2 amazing kids.
About 10 years later,
Was it 10 years?
about 9, she says, look, by the time I'm 30, can we please, let me just give me a little more time. I'm almost there.
So that was the decade that you were really a dedicated comic. You're working my club all the time. You're on the road all the time.
constantly out. Yeah.
What I was leading up to was that they did eventually have kids. And then you guys made a family decision that instead of paying for daycare and everything, Bob pulled way back on the stand-up comedy and helped stay home and take care of the kids while you were a legal secretary.
Right.
Is that about right?
Our original agreement was, okay, why don't you go out for 2 weeks and then you're home for a week, work around town, be with the kids, and then go out. And then so he did that for about maybe a month or 2. And then it's, why don't you go out every other week and then, work around. And I did that for about a couple of months. And then it's, why don't you just work a week And then why are we, and it's like, well, why am I going out working? We're just giving the money to the
I have to
daycare.
hand it to single parents because it is freaking hard to raise kids on your own. And when your mate is gone, you are basically a single parent.
Oh, I told you the story about where she called. I called one night. Hey, how's it going? She goes, oh, the kids driving. I've been working hard all day. And hey, honey, I got to go. A couple of people want to buy me a couple of drinks and tell me how great I am. I'll talk to you soon. Good luck.
Yeah. So, yeah, no. Adjustments. That's what partnerships are. You make adjustments, and Jill, help me out here. Compromises. That's
Compromise,
the word.
yes, big word.
Right. Thanks.
Death threats.
Or the third Mrs. Edwards.
Right. Like that's ever going to happen.
So yeah, you roll with it, and you just keep making adjustments to make it work.
Well, I think that's good advice for any couple out there listening to this podcast, whether you're in show business or not. It is about compromises, but it's a lot about communication. It sounds like you and Bob, I know that Jill and I had several conversations in our marriage because I've gone through several businesses. I'm quite the serial entrepreneur and not always good. You guys at least communicated and tried to form plans, even if they morphed over years.
Right, and they did morph because when the kids were little, we thought, well, I'll stick around. When they get older, I'll go up. But as they got older and hit high school, they started playing sports, cheerleading. I didn't want to miss that stuff, so I really wanted to be around. Yeah. 'Cause that's you only go through that once, and then it's gone. It's over.
I remember you telling me a story where you realized you needed to get off the road when Bernice said,
Right. This is when Lisa Ann was really little.
Yes, tell the story. It's a great story.
She says, honey, Daddy wants to talk to you. And I'm sitting in a chair, and she walks by me and picks up the phone. Hello? Honey, Daddy, right here. Here's Daddy. How's Daddy? Bye.
Bernice, is that a true story? How old was Lisa Ann?
I'm honestly.
She was like 2 or 3. I mean, barely talking.
Well, wants to talk to Daddy.
I like a hamburger too.
I thought I've heard all of your jokes a million times, but I don't think I've ever heard that.
I love that story.
That happened.
That's
And
one of
I
my
love the
favorite
one too where I'm
stories.
vacuuming the house. I'm going to get this house spotless for when Bernice gets home. And I turn around and Lisa Ann was following me around the whole time eating saltine crackers. What the? Come on, kid.
The kids weren't working with you.
So, no, it's tough.
Well, that explains a lot because just to explain to the listening audience, Bob Worley was a mainstay at my club's Laughs Unlimited for many, many years. He started off as an opening and feature act. He became a very qualified headliner and worked many, many times over the years. But when the kids came along, you pulled back and we'd only get you maybe once or twice a year instead of 5 or 6 times a year.
But he brought the kids.
I did bring the kids.
He did bring the kids, but even at a certain point when the kids got into school and stuff, we didn't see you at all. You basically retired from stand-up comedy.
Pretty much, yeah.
You were doing some writing, and you would go out and do maybe a stage once in a while, but even that faded eventually, right?
Well, again, like I said, especially when they were playing sports and stuff, it's, hey, basketball is happening. Yeah. Hey, can you come in tonight? Like the ice says, hey, can you get up if somebody fell out? Well, I got a game tonight. I'm going to go watch the game. It's after a while, they just go, I guess I can't call them.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to know that the kids come first, and that's not easy for any parent.
He wasn't even playing basketball. I just love basketball.
But for you, Bernice, it had to have been kind of comforting in the sense that, even though Bob maybe wasn't bringing in as much money, but he was home, he was helping with the kids, he was helping around the house. So you communicated and found a balance.
Exactly. I was going to say every relationship needs stability, and my paycheck was that part of the stability, but Bob...
Couldn't relate to that at all.
I mean, somebody has to have that steady income coming in, and that was me in our partnership. We had kind of reverse typical roles. He did. He keeps, and to this day, he keeps an excellent house, and he raised our kids. He did a wonderful job raising our kids. And he balances me out. It's not about Bob bringing money into the house. It's about making me laugh at the end of the day.
Oh, right. That's good psychologically. I mean, Jill we can't go into detail because she's a spy, but Jill has the kind of job where she can't talk about it, but I can tell when she has a bad day. And so I try to go out of my way. There's always a hot meal waiting for her. And I try to engage her in topics other than work. Because we can't talk about her work. And Bob, I wanted to use this sound effect. And the kids were so happy you were home.
Aww, that's
Maybe.
so cute.
Most of the time. I did say to Bryce once when he was high school, unfortunately for you, all my good times are going to ruin all your good times. Because I knew, I could tell with the guys he was hanging out with, I go, oh boy, these are guys I knew. So there's going to be some crazy stuff
Remember
happening.
the night that Bryce tried to sneak out of the house?
Oh, and he climbed out of his bedroom window outside. We heard him coming out. I heard him on the roof. So I went around the front, and when he hit the ground, I go, have fun. And so,
It's a scared straight moment, right?
yeah. He's like, hey, I just want to see if I can climb out of that roof.
Well,
So at the time, the kids may not have always appreciated having dad so closely involved, but I think in retrospect, I think they have a lot of appreciation for.
no, definitely. And I want to be honest and open to my listeners and to the people sitting at this table. I always wanted to be an ace number one dad, and I failed. I was not a great dad because I worked nights, and my business was my marriage. And that's why my first marriage didn't
But
make it.
despite that, they still came out pretty good kids.
Oh, no, they're great
adults.
kids.
Yeah.
And my son's about to get his doctorate and is teaching in San Diego.
UC San Diego, where
Yeah.
Bryce went.
Wow.
And, I'm very proud of him, but I wasn't the hands-on father you were. And since we're talking about being parents and stuff, I just wanted to be honest that I did what I could when I could, but I wasn't an ever-present father. And I have always carried some regrets about that. But I will say we've made it up in the years since. Jill and I we say we're amazing grandparents, but the reality is we're godparents and the aunts and uncle to several children. And we've had several generations go through our house, and it's always been a joy, right?
Yes.
And we've done well.
Oh, my kids love going up to your house. Yeah.
Yes, and we had a very funny incident the other day with Kelsey, where she, Auntie Jill, do you still have minty cookies in the freezer? Yeah, it's like, how long have you been coming here, Kelsey?
Yeah, Kelsey grew up at our house. She's our goddaughter. And we should say, she's like 20.
She's 27.
27 now, and she still wants to, where's the minty cookies? But my point of doing this podcast was to try to share with the listeners that stand-up comedy is a terrific art form. It can be a good career. I still encourage people to get on stage, even if you're going to do it once or twice, to find out more about yourself. But if you do get into it as a career, it is challenging on relationships. And sitting before me, Bob and Bernice, through communication, through many years, and at this point, decades of being together, have found a way to really succeed at it. And so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
So far, so good.
And I have to thank my bride. Now, we're recording this. It won't air anytime soon, but
The next anniversary.
it's being recorded during our anniversary week, 23 years married, but we
And
dated.
this is what he's giving you for your anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary, honey. And we dated for about 13 years. So we've been together a long time.
I was a fetus.
Yeah. And she still looks young.
I got carded the other night.
Yeah, we went out and she
That's
got
always a
carded.
plus.
Yeah. At the
It was really dark.
Well, Jill, I don't want to brag, but so did I. Chris,
Come on.
And the guy said, do you know how fast you were driving? It's not your damn business. So anyway,
So I was trying to wrap this up. Jill, you married an entrepreneur who's gone through good businesses and bad, in show business and out of show business. Any advice for the young ladies out there?
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay, just not okay,
Matt,
nothing.
there was a blank look on my face. Just,
Like, what have I done?
nothing was there. Some kind of music
Well, I
was
wish,
playing.
you got to be a little prepared. I wish I would have been,
Yeah, I kind of threw the ladies under
you
the bus
kinda
on
threw
this.
me- yeah.
Yeah, it's all started with, hey, let's get together for breakfast.
Yeah.
Hey, while I have all
of a
this set out. So,
And then to my good friends, Bob and Bernice Worley. Bob continues to be a huge addition to this podcast. I know you've heard his special bonus shows, his holiday specials, and him on several of the podcasts. So thank you for that, young man. Sure. But Bernice, you have had over 40 years with a very funny, very generous and giving, and as we all have said, cute guy, Bob Worley, who was, though, for over a decade, a very successful stand-up comic, and there was a lot of adjustment. Any advice, any final words on being married to a comic?
No, it's about commitment and communication and, just rolling with the punches.
Okay, well.
Hey, now I never punched her. Ever. I was afraid that might come up. That never happened.
Okay. Well, I was hoping the ladies would say that living with guys like us that are kind of outgoing and had a good sense of humor would make lives more full.
You know, I
Well,
have to
honey,
say-
since you speak for me 90% of the time anyway.
You know, she has a gun now. You know, there are nights when she comes home and I go, oh, she needs cheering up, and I'll start to say something. She'll just go, not tonight.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special episode, at least for me. I hope you enjoyed listening. Bob, Bernice, my lovely bride, Jill, thanks very much for joining us. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And we'll see you next week for another great show. Thanks for listening. Be sure to rate us when you can and share with your friends. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.